Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming back to another episode of the Your Gray Matters podcast. I'm Jason, here as always with my dad, Neil. Hi, Dad. How you doing?
I'm terrific. Happy day to everybody.
Yes, exactly. Hopefully, everybody had a good Canada Day for those who celebrate. And what a great guest we have this week. Somebody who can tell us a little bit about what it's like to do voices for a living instead of just for fun like we do.
Yeah, exactly. He takes me back. Our guest is Chris McPherson, someone who I've known for a while. He took me back to my childhood when I used to watch a cartoon called The Flintstones. And as I got older, I started to wonder how the heck do they actually make the voices and the animation work together? And that was the beginning of a fascination with people who do voices when you can't actually see them live. I think
Yeah.
it's a great podcast.
Yeah, I think people are going to enjoy it. It had a lot of fun moments, some interesting voices. And the other thing we'd like you to notice is that we've got a new website. You'll see a link to it in the YouTube description and the podcast description. You'll see lots of links to it on screen today. It's yourgraymatterspod.com. Each episode that we've done will have a blog attached to it, so you can read a little bit more about the episode. And it's something we've had a lot of fun putting together, and I hope you all enjoy visiting it.
Me too.
So, without any further ado, we'll proceed with this week's episode. Everybody, enjoy Chris McPherson.
Have fun, everybody.
Welcome to Your Gray Matters, the podcast that unveils the miracles already amongst us. Here, we believe that the human mind cannot be defeated. Tune in to discover the fascinating people with extraordinary stories, innovative products, and groundbreaking services. With your host, Neil Silvert, who's earned his gray hair and still has use of his gray matter.
Hi, everybody. I'm Neil. Welcome back to the Your Gray Matters podcast. We hope that you had a great week. And we're really excited today because we have an actor, a voice actor. His name is Chris McPherson, super talent. Good morning, Chris. Welcome to Your Gray Matters.
You doing? How you doing? I hope you're feeling well today on this rainy day.
Yep, doing great. Hope you are too. And welcome. Let me tell you, everybody, about Chris McPherson. First of all, known Chris for years. I think he might have had hair when I met him, but he's still looking real good. He moved the hair from the top of the head to around the mouth, so that's good.
There we go.
And everybody, Chris was born in the paradise of Jamaica, but he was raised right here in Ontario, where we all are. And as a kid in the 1980s, he loved Saturday morning cartoons. They were like the holy grail of entertainment for every single kid in North America. Chris was no exception. But one of the things that happened to Chris was this sparked the idea that maybe he could be an entertainer, that he could do some of those voices. He was mesmerized by people like the late Mel Blanc, Chris Latta, Peter Cullen. If you don't know who these gentlemen are, let me give you a word of advice from my mom. Look them up. They are great people, I will tell you. And he started to learn how to become a voice actor, and now he's very well respected in the industry. He used to sing off key in church, but over time he developed just a beautiful singing voice, and that is a part of what he does so well. Chris had the pleasure of working on award winning films and other diverse projects. His talents range from commercial narration, animation, corporate, ADR, and much more. We'll learn about ADR. And I want to tell you something. He took training. This didn't just happen. He worked with veteran animation voice artist Sunday Muse Christian Potenza, and who equipped him with a variety of skills that's really helped him to become a real asset. And maybe he can help you with your organization if you need a voice actor. He has a strong ability of being able to take direction, which is a big thing, of course, but you can see him in some great pieces. He was the narrator for a show called Black Watch Snipers. We're in Hamilton, the Hamilton Tiger Cats CFL football team. You'll hear his voice on some great commercials. Bud Light, Apple, PBS, BBC, Sea Kids, Walmart, Spin Master Toys, and Go RVing in Canada. Chris Roy McPherson, welcome to the Your Gray Matters podcast.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Neil. It's great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, you are really welcome. We're glad to have you. And everybody, we thought we'd put Chris right on the spot. This is the Your Gray Matters podcast, and you always hear my voice. We were thinking maybe Chris would welcome in a few of his voices. Chris, can you welcome people to the Your Gray Matters podcast in some different voices?
Okay, let's do a preacher. Let's do a little preacher voice. Lord Jesus, this evening, welcome to Gray Matters, your Gray Matters podcast with Neil Silver. God is good. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There's one right
Loving
there.
it. Nobody said it that way before. You do a little Russian? You do a little Russian? I got
Let's
Russian
see.
in my background.
Let's see. Привет. Welcome to Gray Matters podcast. Have a good time. It matters to be gray.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And any other great, you must do a great Jamaican.
Sometimes yes and sometimes no. It just totally depends. Most of the times when people are asking for like a Jamaican or West Indian accent, they're not really asking for a like authentic one. They're asking for something that is, you know, kind of watered down. So it's sort of like a do you go full out and then people don't really understand you, or do you go the watered down way and then the people in your life and your family who are Jamaican or West Indian say, why did you do it like that?
How would you do it if you were just talking to a West Indian person in your own voice?
I'd be like, yo man, welcome to the Gray Matters podcast, where your
I love
gray matters. Yeah.
it. That's what we're looking
Yeah,
for.
that's what we got to talk about. Yeah.
So good. Hey, Chris, why did you head into it? I know that we talked about you being a kid in the cartoon, but really, what inspired you to get busy, get working, and get yourself
Um,
going in this industry?
well, like I said, as a kid, I always wanted to, be a voice of one of the Saturday morning cartoons, be like an Autobot, Transformer, whatever. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world, but I never realized that, I could actually do that. I didn't actually think that anybody would pay me money to listen to me to listen to my voice, because I'd listen to all these other voices and be like, these guys are so amazing. I don't sound like that. I can't do this, I can't do that. But then slowly realized that it's not about trying to sound like everybody else. It's finding your own sound. and
Very
for
good.
and for
Very
that,
good.
people will pay attention and take notice to your specific sound and your abilities that you can bring to the table, because if everybody sounds like everybody else, then it's not really going to be interesting.
So, Chris, what I learned in my research is voice acting is everywhere. Like, it's amazing. Animation, video games, dubbing, translation, commercials, audiobooks, narration. I mean, this is a huge industry. And I remember I read that you even were a member or are a member of ACTRA to
Yes.
be able to do this.
Not for everything. There is non-union and union work. So I started non-union and became a member of the union. So I am a member of ACTRA. So
Okay.
there's certain jobs that are pretty much just union and others that are non-union. Once you become an ACTRA member, you really don't do any of the non-union work. But like you said, it's a massive industry. Narration for audiobooks, commercial e-learning videos or corporate learning videos. Another one that's massive is audio description for those who are, you know, impaired, visually impaired. so they can
Right, right.
basically take part in what's going on with the TV show, and they hear what's going on.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
You were telling me off camera that organizations like Audible use a
Yes.
lot of voice narration. Can
Yeah.
you talk about that?
Yeah, Audible, basically the number one company for audiobooks. And basically now there are so much more access for people who are visually impaired, so that they can now read a book that we all can sit down and read with our eyes, but they can now listen to a book and take part and share and say, hey,
Hmm.
that was an awesome book. I like this part when this chapter, or I like this character's development. So they're not left out. And I think that's a really cool thing that they're doing, going back and finding older books and basically putting some voice acting to it, so that everybody can take part and they can spread all the knowledge and the joy of books, not just in the visual format.
Fantastic. Another technological breakthrough,
Oh yeah.
really. Uh, our great world has. I love this.
Hmm.
So you decided to go into voice acting. You did get yourself a mentor, a teacher, as you said, but I'm trying
Yeah.
to imagine that first meeting that you have. Can you tell us a bit about the training and how they even knew if you had what it takes?
Well, yeah, like I said, when I started, I didn't think I could cut the mustard, so to speak. But I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm not getting any younger. Let me take a swing at it. Let me swing for the fences. If it doesn't go anywhere, at least I tried, right? And then I can move on. So I went and I found some coaches. There was workshops in Toronto, and the one that really caught my eye was a workshop with a longtime veteran voiceover actress, Sunday Muse, who was
Oh,
one of the voices of the iconic Care Bears.
oh
Right?
wow.
Yeah. So everybody, do the Care Bear countdown. We all know that, right? So I was like, okay, let me go do the workshop. So I did the workshop. It was a whole bunch of people there. You got to go in the studio and read some lines and things like that with some direction. And she basically said to me, she's like, you should have been doing this since you were 12.
Really? Wow, what a kudo to you.
Yeah. So, I started late, but better to start late than to never start at all.
You got it. Always, my friend.
Hmm.
And then you were with another trainer too.
Yeah, I kind of ran into another voice actor who was like, at the time, he was probably the number one voice actor throughout the 90s, Christian Potenza, who did a lot of work in animation. He did a lot of on camera commercials and movies and things like that. So he's had a long, long career, I think 40 plus career of just doing voice acting and on screen acting. So I got to learn a lot of things about animation from him, a little deeper dive, so to speak, how to create characters and how not just to have a silly or funny voice, you have to actually have a character. So anyone can just spit out a funny voice, but does it live and breathe? Can you convince people that this is actually a real person? Does it move people? Right?
And that's the skill set, I guess, like the lady who did the Care Bears.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's a show that's still alive.
Yes, yes. Care Bears have gone through so many different reboots, and it's here to stay. I don't see it going away anytime soon.
So, Chris, I have to tell you, I watched the piece that you did on Black Watch snipers. Everybody should look that up.
Yeah.
It hit me right in the guts. It was emotional, like it tore into my heart. And of course, the visuals are great, but your voice really slammed me, to be honest with you. That's what got me thinking about doing this podcast, actually.
Oh, okay, cool. Well,
Yeah. And
fun fact: the Black Watch Snipers was pretty much my very first job as a voice
wow.
actor.
Do you become emotional at all when you're doing voice acting? Like I said, I was very moved. But you're doing a job, you're a professional, you have to get the production done. But on an emotional level, are you feeling the character? Are you feeling the
Um,
voice? I'm just curious.
well, we'll take the Black Watch Snipers as an
Okay.
example. Everything that I had to read in the narration for that wasn't something that a writer was sat down in a room and was thinking of stuff to write. Everything that was said was from those individuals that were being depicted in the film, was from
Yeah.
their thoughts, their journals. So
Wow. Yeah.
so it wasn't anything that was created. It was 100% their thoughts, their emotions, what they were going through. And when you read it, it
And
hits you a little bit different, because this person was actually in this hell, and this is what they were writing, this is what they
yeah.
were feeling. you know it was absolutely crazy to think that these people could, you know, go through all this and still come out on the other side of it, and still have, good lives and raise a family, and you know, fully function.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you brought them to life. I mean, you translated it beautifully, and I found it very moving, as I said.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, really, really well. And you said that that was one of your first. I mean, what an accomplishment that you did. I have to tell you too. I find the whole thing interesting that you made our CFL football team, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who've had some rough years.
Yes.
And yet I watched two pieces that you did. And I, as a guy who's thinking about, do I want to buy tickets? Do I want to watch it? Do I want to just go on TV? You made me want to support those cats again. You made me want to go to games. And I know that the footage is a couple of years old, but you know what?
Yeah.
I watch it now and I was moved. Did you enjoy doing sports
Yeah, that was,
voiceover?
well, yeah, it was pretty cool. That was more of like a promo voiceover job, right? Where it's like a real big build up to something that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
But that was cool, just to go through some of the history and how they layered the voice with the footage. So it was very cool, and that was during COVID when that came out, when they did that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow. Wow. I have to say it's a great piece, and it's not a short piece. The ones I was watching, like
yeah.
I imagine a 3 or 4 piece thing takes a lot of practice and a lot of preparation.
Well, same, like you said, you have to study. You got to do your homework, right? So even though we don't have to memorize lines per se, but you have to basically deliver a performance that is genuine, that people will feel, and then people will basically, you know gravitate to. And it most people can detect if it's not an honest, genuine, you know read, or performance. Sometimes
Uh,
people will just come out and they'll just read whatever they want to read, and they don't understand that everything has to be accentuated. What letters, not letters, but what words are the primary movers that are going to, stoke the flames of emotion and get people interested to take them along like a journey, right? So
and I think that's one of the things that I've noticed. Sorry to interrupt.
that's
You
okay.
did so well. That it's the second time I'm going to mention emotion. Your voice reaches into my heart, my head. It's amazing, Chris. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had to say, wow, when you speak, people listen and they should.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So I got to ask you, Chris,
Yes.
memorable roles yourself. What were some of your favorites? So did you have do you have a character that you love that you do or that you'd like to be able to do?
Man, there's a lot. There are a lot. There's a lot of voices that I would love to be able to do. Some, I think the one voice that I've done the most is, you know, closer to my own. And
Oh,
I basically started doing a puppet show
oh,
with a nice friendly puppet named Don Juan Daquan.
Okay.
And the name of the puppy show is called Sexy Ass Recipes, where he makes recipes that are sexy. So
Okay.
his voice is more, like I said, closer to my own, but with a just turning it up a little notch. Like most of these voices pretty much are your own, but it's just turned up to like 12 or it goes to 11 if you get that reference.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is your host Don Juan De Quan and welcome to Sexy Ass Recipes, baby.
I can't imagine what kind of recipes we're going to see, but can you tell us where
Well,
this show's going?
well, the whole premise of the show is Don Juan De Quan is a culinary master in his own mind. And he has people on his cooking show to cook up things that you think are regular meals, but they have very, 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 very outlandish and just weird recipe ingredients, right? So he'll be using like rhino horn, tiger liver or tiger claws or tiger's
Oh,
bone time,
yummy.
things like that. And pretty much everything he's trying to cook is like an aphrodisiac in some way. But
And this is going to be a kid's show?
it's not a kid show. No, it's not a kid show. But at the
Not Saturday morning.
but at the end of it, nothing really gets cooked because it just goes south.
Oh, that's funny.
Everything goes
That's
south.
funny.
Yeah, at the end.
So, is this in production? Like, can we watch it somewhere?
Actually, there is a YouTube. I should have told you this, but I totally forgot it. It slipped my mind. There is a YouTube website, not website, channel called Don Juan De Quan, right? And also a Instagram channel, Don Juan De Quan. So it's DonJuanDaeQuan. Don Juan De Quan. Sexy ass
Now, who came
recipes.
up with that name and why?
I came up with it because, I was thinking like, so he's like an ex pimp who has a cooking show now, right?
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah,
That's funny. It could be like, what's cooking with Don Juan today? I
there you
could
go.
just see it in
There
my
you go.
head.
And the
Ah,
title,
good for you. That's
yeah,
funny.
and the title of the show, Sexy Ass Recipes.
Well, I hope it goes viral and
Well,
big.
thank you. Actually, recently, well, not recently, but a couple of months ago, I took Don Juan Daquan to the Ancaster Dessert Fest, where we had Don Juan interviewing all of the vendors with their various treats and stuff, and to see how sexy their recipes were.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
So you went to the Ancaster Fair.
yeah.
That's hilarious. I love this. I'm going to be turning this on. I hope all of you out there are going to turn it on too. Chris, I wanted to ask you, what could you tell aspiring voice actors nowadays? You've been through the growth. You've been through what it takes to get known out there. What can you tell people who like to do this?
A lot of people who find out that this is something that I do, like, being a professional voice actor, sorry. They immediately ask me how they can basically do it as well. And I tell them that it's going to basically take a lot of training. You need to know how to act. For some reason, a lot of people feel that you don't need to know how to act. But like I said to you before, you need to be able to read these scripts and to emote various different
Hmm.
emotions and take people on the journey, right? So you
Yep.
need to know how to do that. You need to know how to dissect a script and what words are going to be the ones that you lean on a little bit harder that are going to push that audience who's
So
listening to it
so
to
yeah,
the
get into it.
yeah, you need to know how to act. Acting is crucial. You also need improvisational skills, right? And you need to know how do you develop a character. Not everybody can do
Hmm.
different voices. There are people who are successful voice actors who only use the one voice that they got, right?
Right.
and they do
Right.
amazingly well, and that's great. And then you got some people like the late great Mel Blanc, who could do over what 400 voices, or a
Oh
thousand
yeah.
voices, right?
Bugs
And there's
Bunny, the hero. Bugs
yeah,
Bunny.
and there's not a lot of people that can do what Mel Blanc has done, right? But there are some people that they got four voices. But like I said, whatever your skill set is, you have to build on it so that you can present it to an audience, so they can digest, you know, the work that you're placing in front of them. So whatever that project may be, but you need to know how to act.
Yeah. Wow.
Bottom line.
I never would have even thought of that, but it makes total sense to
Yeah,
me.
you need to know how to act, and there's a lot of other stuff that comes along with it that you can learn as you go. But you need to learn how to act, and then after that, you also need to have a demo. So, with that being said, when you're learning how to act, you also need to know, where does your voice lie in the various different niches that we have in the industry. Because there's some people who aren't going to be very good at animation. Maybe they don't have that energy, you know? Their voice might be better suited for commercials, or their voice might be better suited for long format, like a narration or doing documentaries, right? So you need to know where your voice lies in the greater scheme of the industry, because
Uh-huh.
usually the industry will let you know where your voice is best suited, right? Because for me, I would never want to do audio descriptive, for TV shows and movies, because that is an entirely different beast, and you need to have superhero skills to be able to do that. And there's individuals that do that live on live broadcasts, right?
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
so it's a different level of training. ADR work is really fun. So it's just voice dubbing, really. So a
Hmm.
scene has already been done, and now you're inserting your voice or different sounds over the track.
Amazing.
Hmm.
I have to admit, when I was a kid and I would watch the Flintstones, and so I'm a few years older than you, so my go-to was the Flintstones.
Yeah.
And I used to wonder as a kid, gee, how did they? I didn't know the word sync, but I'll use it. How do they sync all this stuff? Like, does the
Hmm.
actor talk and they build the cartoon around? They didn't have the technology like we do today, but I guess that's what you're saying.
Well,
Somehow you put it in, then they somehow put it together with
well, there's
technology.
there's there's two ways. So if you're working on an animated project, right? That is, let's say, for Canada, and it's brand new, you basically will get the script. You will go in and read all your parts, and then they time it. So they want every section to be within a specific amount of time, because time is crucial for these animated projects, right? So you're going to
Hmm,
have a show that might only be 12 or 13 minutes, right? Now we insert commercials through that, right? Depending on what format. If it's going to be streaming, then there's not going to be commercials. If it's going to be on, like, CBC or whatever, they're going to insert commercials into it. So, or on the whole, it might be 12 to maybe 20 minutes, that show is, and every second counts. So when you're in there doing your reads, they need every section to be within that buffer of, okay, this is going to be 30 seconds. This needs to be a 15-second spot. This needs to be a little bit longer, right? And they give you a buffer to work with. If you're going too slow, they'll tell you pick up the pace. You're going too fast, slow it down a little bit, right? And
I
then
see.
from there, when they develop the actual animation, they will sync what you have done already with the voice work, and they'll make the mouth flaps or the talking parts match what you've done. Now, on the other side of it, if it's a show that was done in Japan, let's say Dragon Ball Z, everybody knows Dragon Ball Z, great show, right? Originally Japanese show, right? uh, Anime. So now when you come over here with it and you're doing it for an American audience or North American audience, all of those mouth flaps have been timed to the Japanese voice actors. So they're not
Uh-huh.
changing it. They're just taking out that audio.
Yeah.
And now you got to put in your own and you have to make it match what's already there. So now you're the one that has to fit in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So there, you have to understand timing. You have to understand listening. You have to understand how to take direction from the
Sure.
director or the client.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of this. So it is proper to say actor, voice acting.
You
This
are
is
you
quite
are
a profession.
Yeah, you are an actor. You're just not being seen on screen. And I'm not saying that on screen acting is easier, but if you're trying to deliver a sense of anger, sadness, or confusion, you can do that with how your face looks. You can do that with body language, right? The audience can see, oh, okay, you could tell them what's going on with just how you're standing, right? With how your face is. When you're when you're in a booth, no one sees you. You have to make them feel it with your voice. You have to make them be like, okay, I hear his confusion. I hear that you're happy. I hear that you're kind of upset, but sad, but kind of relieved at the same time. And you got to make people feel that with your voice. And how do you do that when no one can see you, right? You have to let it
Yeah.
come
Wow.
through.
What a talent. Wow. What a talent. Amazing.
So yeah, it's not something that's easy to do. It's something that the very best voice actors obviously spend a lot of time honing their craft and going to improvisational classes, acting classes, doing one-on-one training to basically sharpen their steel.
So it's interesting, Chris, because I imagine that you have a script, as you said, you're reading it, you're putting, you're bringing it to life with emotion, with thoughts, with trying to tell that story in the best way possible. But then, and that's all planned and practice and skill set. But I hear you mentioning improv. Improv, as far as I know, isn't usually the improv is well practiced and a massive skill, but at the same time, how do you improv on a voice over?
Well, when you get, let's say, an audition and you get a script, you have the reads, they're looking for something. A lot of the times they'll give you direction, but they're still fishing, right? And a lot of the times what the casting agency or the casting director is looking for is someone to bring that piece of paper to life, and that could be with a little ad lib or improvisational line that you just throw in there, or you create a signature sound for this character. They might have like a slight stutter, or they might talk in a specific drawl, or they might have a catchphrase that they use, right? So when you improv, you can basically create maybe three or four different versions of the character in that script, and then try to see which one is the one that pops the most, or the one that is most suited for what they're looking for, because a lot of times they don't even really know what they want until they hear it. They're out there fishing for something, and they're hoping that you're the person that's going to basically serve it up to them on a silver platter, and they'll be like, yes, that's what I want. Because a lot of the times they'll have so many people who come in who will read the script word for word, and it's all the same. Even though it could be good, they're looking for something that wasn't there. They want you to give them stuff that wasn't there, like add on to what you see on the page and just make it breathe life into it.
It's so fascinating what you're saying. Thank you for that answer, because now I do understand. I love some of the great talent shows on TV. America's Got Talent, the singing one with Simon Cowell. Well,
Yep.
that's AGT, but I remember the message is always to people who want to sing. I already heard the song the way Celine sang it. Give us your version.
Yeah.
And that's improv, I guess. That's exactly what you're trying to do, is stand out.
Exactly. Exactly. You don't want to be. I was always told this. You'll see people like Homer Simpson, right? From the Simpsons, Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, and you'll see there's tons of people that will have videos of them sounding just like Homer Simpson, or sounding like Peter from the Family Guy, or whatever it might be, which is great. If you have that skill to do impressions, that is awesome. But those people already have those jobs,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's
It's
already been done.
it's a very slim chance that you're going to get hired doing the voice of Peter Griffin, or Homer Simpson, or whoever. And it's awesome if you can do that, because maybe sometimes they're looking for someone who can sound exactly like Homer Simpson. But I was always told, always be the guy, or try to be the guy that other people want to sound like.
Oh, that makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Be your own person, and don't try to be a mimic. Develop your own sound, and and then other people, if it resonates with them, will be out there trying to do videos saying, hey, I can sound like the dude from Don Juan Daquan Sexy Ass Recipes, and have a whole bunch of videos of people trying to sound like Don Juan Daquan.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Chris, I gotta ask some just as we're starting to wrap up. So I'm not big on the award shows, but a lot of people love, getting that golden statue, or getting the Emmy, or I just like to see a Stanley Cup in Toronto, but that's a different story. But the thing is, Chris, do they have awards for voice actors?
Of course they do. Yeah. Yeah, ACTRA has a lot of events and recognition, and there's tons of awards that can be won for great work.
Wow. Well, good for you. Well, listen, we want to wish you the best. You really are a talent. I've known that for a lot of years. We didn't even talk about your singing skills, which are fabulous. And if I can let the cat out of the bag, you are definitely one of the best massage therapists around.
Ha,
You do a great job with
thank
that
you.
too. Chris is multi-talented, everybody. He's a wonderful person. And Chris, we want to thank you so much for coming on the Your Gray Matters podcast today. Everybody, we hope that you enjoyed this. And we'll be back next week as usual. And Chris, you have one more voice to take us out of the show.
One more voice. Let's see. Let's see. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast, Neil, because this is a podcast of podcasts, and I appreciate it wholeheartedly. The check's in the mail.
And if you can cash it, you can use it.
There you
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Chris, you're a joy. We appreciate you. Everybody, as I said, we'll be back next week, and have a great week.